Tonight's show is all about how we are about to subsidise some of the richest corporations on the planet so that they could be able to dump their crap on some of the poorest, most vulnerable people on the earth and call it charity. If we were Carlton Television, we would be calling the show Capitalists from Hell. Because that's what Carlton do. They're builders from hell, you know, drivers from hell, Satanists from... No, think that through. And this show's about drug dumping. This is about dumping of useless drugs and pharmaceuticals in developing world countries, normally in the middle of a crisis. And we phoned these doctors in Malawi. We said, have you ever had any inappropriate donations, useless donations? She said, oh, yeah. I said, what's your favourite or what's the weirdest one? She said, we were sent a box full of these. I said, what are these? They said, we had about 30 of them. They're 300 quid a go. We were sent silicone breast implants. Silicone breast implants to Malawi. Not top priority for that particular health service. And I said, did you find any use for them? They said, oh, yeah. I said, what? They said, paperweights. But if you're a pharmaceutical company and your stock is coming up to its sell-by date, or they're past their use-by date but not up to the expiry date, so they're short-dated, or your competitors are just beating you in sales and all this stuff is clogging up your warehouses, you can donate it to a charity who will dump it in the developing world for you, rather than the other option, which is you incinerate it in a regulated and controlled way, which will cost you some money. This way you save your money, you clear your warehouses, you get your old stock out of the way, and I forgot to mention, this process might be just kind of nudged along by the fact that American pharmaceutical companies get a tax deduction for this. And we're about to get similar laws in Britain. This process has led to such edifying drug donations as appetite stimulants, crates of them dumped in Sudan in the middle of a famine. How the fuck can you do that? Eritrea in '89, 6 fucking truckloads of expired aspirin. Rwanda in '94, they dumped masses of odourless garlic pills. Handy in a genocide where halitosis is a problem. In Kosovo, as refugees fled from the bombing and the massacres, coming into Albania, they had 10 tons of depilatory cream and hemorrhoid cream dumped. In Gujarat, 2001, 20,000 people died in the earthquake, and one company, they donated bikinis. How low on your list of must-haves is a bikini when you're a homeless victim of a fucking earthquake? That's got to come after smoke alarm, dough balls and lawnmower. You see, this stuff is fucking dangerous. These are drugs. In Lithuania, 11 women were temporarily blinded because the doctors had been sent stuff that was in an inappropriate language. They couldn't read what the tablets were, and they prescribed dog deworming tablets. In Bosnia, anti-leprosy pills were labelled paracetamol. Decongestants were 3 years out of date and had the expiry date falsely covered up. We spoke to a guy called Professor Chuchillo, who works for Pharmacists Sans Frontier, who was out there, and he said, my job was to help clear up the dumped pharmaceuticals.
At least there were 300 or 400 tons of non-usable drugs.
300 to 400 tons?
Yes, sure.
So if this was in Mostar?
That was only Mostar.
So we're talking possibly about thousands of tons?
Of the order of 1,000 or 1,500 tons in Bosnia easily.
He said they had to get steel bins, mix the drugs in with cement and lime, weld the lids on and bury them in landfill. It cost them about 100 grand to do that in Mostar. In other parts of Bosnia, there were so many drugs dumped, they had to build an incinerator that cost them $34 million. After Bosnia, they said, we're going to bring in the World Health Authority and the World Health Organization are going to work with all these aid agencies. We're going to introduce guidelines for appropriate drug donations. No expired stuff. Everything's got to have at least a year's shelf life on it. It has to be in the right language. It has to be a generic, not a brand name. It has to be wanted. The country has to produce an essential drugs register, which those drugs have to be on.
Would you say that would be helpful in preventing the kind of bad donation that you yourself witnessed?
It's not that it would help. It is that it's an obligation. It's absolutely necessary indeed.
Spoke to a woman who was out in Tirana, in Albania, in 1999. She was working as a pharmacist. She said, let me show you some photographs. The first one is outside a hospital in Albania. All those packages there are the unwanted, useless drugs that were sent to them, that were of absolutely no use. She said we were literally collecting buckets of drugs that were useless. At another point, they found these, which were nitrous oxide, which is laughing gas, gas and air that women have when they're pregnant or is used in anaesthetics. This is 1999. The expiry date, 490. Nearly 10 years out of date. 10 years out of date. If this is laughing gas, this is the equivalent of fucking Jimmy Tarbuck material. And she said, I want to show you this photograph. This photograph is how many drugs we found that we could use. That was the total amount of useful drugs in that hospital in Tirana. We thought, well, we need to look at this stuff. We need to look at their guidelines. If we're getting these laws in our country, we need to have the World Health Organization guidelines in the legislation. So anything that's donated outside of that, you can't claim the tax money back. And if you try, you'll be done for tax fraud and we'll slap you. Seems fair. We then found out that there was a small meeting in London of people working in pharmaceutical industries and doctors and people working in various developing world countries, and we turned up and I asked them a little question about whether they thought the World Health Organization guidelines should be included.
What I'd like to ask is, to all the people in the room as well as to the people on the panel, is there anyone here who can find a reason why the World Health Organization code on donations shouldn't be included in legislation so that we could actually get the appropriate donations arriving at the appropriate places?
I think we've got to take that silence as a yes, they should be included, Mark. And what was quite nice was after they came out of the meeting, we had this stall set up outside and had these T-shirts printed up, and as they came out, I gave them a T-shirt, and some of the T-shirts said, just say no to drug dumping, which I thought was quite snappy.